What's going on, GOAT Format Duelists? We're going to be building a deck from scratch today. That deck is Earth Aggro. So welcome to GOAT Duels. I'm ACP, and I decided to do this video for two reasons. One, a lot of people in the comments were asking me to do a video on Earth Aggro. Haven't covered it all before. Two, it's been a while since I've done a building a deck from scratch video. People seem to really like my last one. The last one was Chaos Return, where I built the deck from scratch. A lot of people are skeptical. They're like, I don't know if this Chaos Return deck's any good. But it turns out Chaos Return is pretty good. Just won Worlds. So this is really fun because you get to see sort of how my brain works when I'm building a deck. So let's go ahead and dive in. I won't delay you all anymore. So if we're playing Earth Aggro, we know the main reason that we're playing this deck is Gigantes, right? That is sort of the key card in the deck. If this card wasn't in the format, there'd really be no reason to play a bunch of Earth monsters all in the same deck. And there are three things that this card does. So we want to be thinking about all of these things when we're building our deck. One is, hey, it has 1900 attack. This is a special summon. Okay, so we're clearly building an aggro deck then, right? We're not building a control deck. Secondly, it is a heavy storm, right? We can crash it into our opponent's monster, boom, kill all the back rows, which is pretty nice, especially considering that a lot of people like to go set a bunch of back rows with Solve Judgment. Gigantes can really throw a monkey wrench into that plan and really make your opponent go, oh, wait, I didn't think about that. And thirdly, it does banish an earth monster from our grave. And that matters because we could play Return. I think there have been a couple of lists of this deck that played Return in them that were kind of successful, so it is something to think about, either main or side. So let's talk about Return first, if that's the direction that we want to go. So the good thing about Return is we know we're going to be playing Exiled Force, so I'll just go ahead and add that to the deck now. Boom, there's Exiled Force. Let's save. And the reason why this is important is because getting back Exiled Force off Return is really good, because when we're going for game, we can return, get back our Exiled Force, clear our opponent's field, or at least one monster, and then swing for game, right? That helps if you kill a monster before you go for game. So that's really nice. However, the thing that I don't like about Return in this deck is that there's not really a whole lot of other synergies. So Gigantes, of course, it only banishes one Earth, right? Yes, getting back Exiled Force with Return is good, but we don't want to just return for one monster, right? We want to return for really 3+, I think, is kind of the number that we want. And then it's a question of, how are we going to get that many monsters banished? Well, this isn't the kind of deck where we're going to be playing a bunch of Dakochis and Spies and hoping they get crossed out. I mean, unless we want to take our deck in that direction. But that would kind of clash with the rest of the deck because we know we're building an aggro deck. So we can't rely on crossout to get stuff banished. So that's an issue. So then it becomes a question of, okay, how are we going to banish all these monsters? So one option is the Rock Spirit, right? But this card isn't that good. Like Gigantes, it only banishes one Earth, and it does gain 300 attack, but only during your opponent's battle phase. And unlike Gigantes, it only has 1,000 defense, so it does die to Tsukiyomi. So, you know, this card isn't really that strong, right? Because on our turn, it only attacks for 1,700, which doesn't really get over a whole lot. 19 is obviously a lot better. Only banishes one Earth. So if we're playing Return, we would kind of have to rely on Bazoo. But then the issue with that is that this isn't a kind of deck that can rapidly put stuff in our grave. So there are some decks in the format, like Chaos, where maybe you'll like discard a bunch of Thunder Dragons, banish them all with Bazoo, return them all back or whatever. But this deck can't really do that sort of thing. The only way to really put a lot of stuff in our grave quickly is to summon Giant Rat, which we also know we're going to play. And yes, we could go Giant Rat, crash Giant Rat into your opponent's guy, and you know, banish them all with Bazoo, get back with turn. But that's kind of like, it seems a little situational to me. And to me, the other problem with like running a bunch of Bazoos in this deck is that our deck starts to become really weak to Kaiku. Because Kaiku does stop you from summoning Gigantes, and if a Kaiku's in play, you can't banish anything to Bazoo, so your Bazoo can't attack over your Kaiku. So that's kind of a big problem. And Kaiku is still a really popular card. This is the kind of deck where we're supposed to be winning against Warriors, so I don't want to just play a bunch of Bazoos and Returns and then just randomly lose because our aggro opponent summoned Kaiku. So I really don't want to do that. So if we're not going the return direction, I start to think, okay, how are we going to abuse this card, right? And if we want to abuse that heavy storm effect, I think probably the best way to go is Cold Wave. And at this point, Cold Wave, it's kind of a known entity in GOAT format. I think people know why it's good. They know some of the stuff that it combos with. And just the same way that Cold Wave can combo with Mobius, Cold Wave can also combo with Gigantes, right? We can activate Cold Wave, special summon Gigantes, crash it into our opponent's monster, boom, kill everything. That's kind of nice. So to me, that's something I want to try. I know Aleph Yatu has played this combo before. It wasn't really an Earth deck. It was like a Cold Wave Monarch deck that happened to have Gigantes splashed in. But the point is that I think that's proven to work. And if we're going this direction, I think we also want to be running Grand Marg. We can debate the right number. I don't think we want to play 3. I don't think it's quite good enough to play 3, but we're going to play at least 1. I'd say we probably start out by trying 2. If it seems maybe a little too situational, go back to 1. But Grand Marg does a lot of nice things for our deck. Of course, it's an Earth, so we can banish it to Gigantes. It does sort of kind of combo with Cold Wave, right? We can go Cold Wave, lock down their back row, tribute a monster for Grand Marg, blow up that set back row, and, you know, not nearly as good as Cold Wave Mobius, but it's not too bad. And because we have this big, beefy monster, Grand Marg also helps us get over Gravekeeper Spy. It does deal with various annoying set monsters, whether it's a set Recruiter, a set Spy, a set Magician of Faith, whatever. So I really like Grand Marg as a way to synergize with Gigantes, synergize with Cold Wave, and kind of help us keep the pressure on our opponent. And then also, if we're playing a bunch of Cold Waves, I mean, we're going to be playing Breaker anyways, but Breaker is even better in a deck with Cold Wave. I would say Breaker Cold Wave is one of the best combos in GOAT format. Just because, you know, again, maybe our opponent has Kaiku in play, shutting down our Gigantes in hand. We can go Cold Wave, summon Breaker, Breaker attack over Kaiku, main phase 2, use Breaker's effect, pop the back row. Really, really strong. Just going Breaker for 19, attack over something, pop the back row, now you can't activate anything. Boom. So next, I think we know we were going to play Rat, so let's sort of fill out the Rat box. So we've already got Exiled Force. The other really good Rat target is Injection Fairy Lily. And we know we're going to be playing Mystic Swordsman level 2 as well. I mean, Mystic Swordsman is a great card in GOAT format in general. And obviously the fact that we can get it with Rat. We might play Reinforced in the army as well. So that's another card that we can get off of, that we can use to get Mystic level 2. And then, okay, so we think anything else? Mystic, Fairy Lily, Exiled Force. Okay, I think that's enough targets. We could also play Cypher Soldier, right? Now, right now, I don't think Warriors are popular enough to main deck this. Like, Warriors aren't really splashed into anything either. It's not like Chaos really plays any Warriors other than BLS. And I guess maybe occasionally getting to go Rat, crash into your BLS, search Cypher Soldier attack over BLS. Like, yes, you will occasionally be able to do that, but our opponent will probably have BLS in defense most of the time because we do run, again, Gigantes and Rat. So I don't think that's really going to work if our opponent is any good, but just something to think about. But I think we do want to side a couple of these, right? Against Warriors, I think, hey, we might even need to search too. So let's just go ahead and add those to the side deck as another Rat box card. So we've got 12 monsters so far, so we're probably going to want a few more. We notice, hey, we've already got 2 Warriors for Reinforcement of the army, so we probably are going to play more and just play a Rhoda box. So Goblin Attack Force, I think that's a card we want to play. I know that the list from Worlds is playing 3, it looks like. I do kind of have it up for reference here. I don't know if this is good enough to play 3, to be honest. I think we might want 2, but to me, how many Goblin Attack Forces do we need, right? If we run double Goblin Attack Force, double Rhoda, that's like 4 Goblin Attack Forces. How many do we need? So, I mean, it can be nice. Like, it does attack over Spy. Like, it attacks over Spy and switches to defense. But even then, it's like, okay, it attacks over spy, but then your opponent has to deal with it, right? And then if they don't deal with it, hey, maybe next turn we tribute it for a Grand Marg or something. So, yeah, I think we want to play 1 or 2 Goblin Attack Force. To me, 3 just seems super unnecessary. So now we've already got 4 Warriors. I think DD Warrior Lady is another one that we want to add, just because, you know, really good card, really good Warrior monster. And I think probably 1 DD Assailant. So Assailant isn't really super strong. Like, I don't think we're going to be searching this with Rhoda a lot, to be quite honest. But it is an Earth, just in case it ends up in the grave. If we, I don't know, discard it to Graceful Charity or attack with it, run into a Saku. Yes, it is an Earth for Gigantes. I don't think we're going to be searching this a lot, though. But now we have 6 Warriors. And at this point, 6 Warriors, we know that's enough to support Rhoda, right? We know that's enough. So, boom. We're going to add 2 Rhoda to our deck. And now our deck's starting to get filled out. I mean, if you count the Rhodas as Warriors and Exiled Force as, you know, not really a monster, it's kind of like we have 17 monsters, which is pretty standard for GOAT format, I think. So I think next we start thinking about like other ways to sort of abuse our package. One option is we could play Creature Swap. And there are some interesting things you can do with Creature Swap in this deck. Obviously, the obvious combo is Rat, but we can also combo swap with Gigantes. We can special summon Gigantes in defense, swap it over to our opponent, run it over, and then get Gigantes effect and blow up the back rows. The problem with that combo, though, is that our opponent would have to have a back row set, but one that somehow doesn't stop our attack. So this, like, on paper, it seems like Gigantes Creature Swap should be a good combo, but in reality, it's not, because our opponent, like, has to have back rows but not have any live back rows at the same time, which that just doesn't make sense, right? That's not going to happen. So I don't think we're going to be playing Swap. I don't really think we have enough abuse for Swap. So next, I think we could add staples. And one cool thing is we can just search from a previous deck already, just to get some staples, right? So I'm just gonna go to Angel Chaos here. This is something cool that we can do in GOAT duels, and just go, hey, what else are we adding? Okay, so we got some staples. Yeah, I think it's about it. I don't know if we're gonna be playing MST or not. We probably will. Probably will be. I mean, it's a lot of removal, right? Like Cold Wave, Heavy, and MST. But why not? Why not? And then of course we think, okay, what else do we want to play in this deck? We also want some traps. So we're gonna be, we are gonna be playing Ring. We're gonna be playing Mirror. We're gonna be playing Torrential. And one of the things that I actually notice is, just based on the way that we built our deck, I think that Skill Drain could be good. Because if we think about like how Skill Drain interacts with our deck, because obviously there's a few possibilities of Skill Drain. Either it makes our monster worse, or it makes our monster better. And Gigantes, it's the same thing either way. Like, Gigantes still triggers a Skill Drain in play. And, you know, with Rat, yeah, that still triggers. Exiled Force, we can use little Skill Drains in play. But it makes our Goblin Attack Force better, but then makes our Lily and Mystic Swordsman worse. And, you know, makes these guys worse too. So it's like, okay, it makes some cards better, makes some cards worse. To me, though, that's still good enough to at least try. Like, at least try playing one. And again, we can kind of do some tricky things with this here. So one thing that we can do is, if we have a monster whose effect that we need, but like our Skill Drain is shutting it down, we can strategically crash our Gigantes into our opponent's monster, trigger the effect, killing our Skill Drain, and then get the effect of our other monsters. So if we have something like Gigantes, Lily, Skill Drain versus our big opponent's monster, we just go Gigantes, crash, kill our own Skill Drain, and then Lily run over their monster, right? So that's something that we can do. I think we also probably want Premature Burial just to get back Exiled Force. So that's something to think about, is that when we're using our Gigantes, we want to banish the worst Earth monster in our grave. That way, the better ones are there for pre. So now we are at 33 cards. And, you know, the problem with this deck, I think, is that, like, there aren't a ton of playable cards. So we have some options. One option would be to add something like Blade Knight just as a rota target. Another option, I think, would be to maybe lean more into the Goblin Attack Force skill drain synergy and just add, like, a third Goblin Attack Force and a second skill drain. Maybe that could work, you know? Maybe that's good. I don't know. And then if we go that route, maybe we even take out a Grand Marg and go to 1. Just because, well, if we have a bunch of Goblin Attack Forces and skill drains, we don't really need to worry about dealing with Spy as much. And then skill drain, of course, does stop Grand Marg's effect. So yeah, that's kind of an option. That's one direction that we could go. And again, I am building this from scratch, so I don't really know necessarily where we're gonna take this deck. I do know though that this is going to be in the side. Sometimes if I'm stuck on the main, I'll just start building out the side. Then maybe when I'm building the side, that gives me some ideas for the main, perhaps. But yeah, to me, it's like, if we're going this route, I think we do kind of want to lean into the skill drain synergy, maybe. So Berserk Gorilla, that's like another option. You see some decks, I think most Earth decks are playing some copies of Berserk Gorilla. And I know the deck for Worlds wasn't, but that was because I think he just decided that Goblin Attack Force was better. But we can play both, right? We can play both. Like, if we're playing a bunch of skill drains, then I think Goblin Attack Force is just the better card overall. But, you know, we could play both. We could even just play a bunch of skill drains, cut the Assailant, add the third Goblin Attack Force. We'd still be at, like, 6 Warriors. I don't know. To me, that seems kind of good, actually. So let's maybe delete this. Add Goblin Attack Force to the main. Probably just add Berserk Gorilla, too, just to stay at the same monster count. Add another skill drain. Let's make sure we have matching art. Okay, here we go. And it's like, okay, now we're at, like, 34. And I think this is pretty good, because skill drain doesn't really stop a whole lot of cards in our deck. Like, it stops Mystic Swordsman, it stops Warrior Lady, it stops Injection Fairy Lily, which is not that many cards. And then it makes our 3 Goblin Attack Force better. And then obviously the skill drain also counters all of our opponent's monsters. So I like this. And again, we can sort of strategically use Gigantes to kill our own skill drain if we want. The problem, though, can be that our opponent can do the same thing, right? So if we have a skill drain, we have to be careful about summoning Gigantes if we don't want our skill drain to die. So that could be kind of a downside. But what we can do, of course, is we could just have a bunch of stuff to protect our Gigantes. So we could play, like, some Sakuretsu armors. Just to protect our board. Really, mainly just to protect Gigantes. Obviously, Saku's pretty good at any aggro mirror. Smashing is another option. I know the list from Worlds was playing Smashing. But, here I think Saku's better, because we're trying to let Gigantes die on our own terms. We don't want our opponent to just be able to kill it whenever they want. And then I think we could go ahead and just add another Berserk Gorilla. We're kind of playing a lot of monsters at this point. That's fine. I think this is good. I mean, this is definitely very aggro-y, you know? We definitely have a lot of good aggro monsters. And then it's a question of, okay, how are we going to fill out this deck list? So I know that one thing that people like to do is when they're in these sort of spots where it's like, oh, I don't really have enough cards. What do I add? Upstart Goblin would probably be the first thing that comes to mind. Now, I don't like Upstart Goblin in an aggro deck. Now, I know some people have played Upstarts in aggro. I know some people swear by it, say, oh, the 1,000 life points doesn't matter. I think it matters, especially when we're like trying to kill our opponent with Injection Fairy Lily. I don't want to be giving them a bunch of life points. However, I think that Jar Greed actually isn't that bad here as sort of an alternative to Upstart. People like to do this too, right? Say, well, I don't want to play Upstart, but I do want to draw some cards, so I'll play Jar Greed. And I think this list is pretty good. I think this is where this would kind of be my starting point for the deck. Now, I'm not saying that this deck is amazing or that it's optimal, but I would want something that looks like this. To me, the best way that we abuse what this deck is good at is with Skill Drain and Cold Wave. That's what I think. And then if we're going with like Skill Drain Gigantes, well, we probably want to add Sakus. Now, it's funny. I swear, I really wish the Rock Spirit gained stats on the opponent's turn, because I would maybe consider throwing in like one Rock Spirit, but it doesn't gain stats on our turn, and when Skill Drain's in play, it doesn't even gain stats on our opponent's turn. So I'm not really too thrilled with that. So yeah, I would want to go something like this, see how this deck is either succeeding or not succeeding, and then adjust from there. Jar Greed is kind of a filler, but it does create some interesting situations where our opponent maybe attacks over our Gigantes because they think they're blowing up a bunch of back rows, but then we just activate a bunch of Jar Greeds, and then it's like, oh no, that play that you did that you thought was good is actually not that good. So just something to think about, just something to think about. So as far as the side goes, we have 5 side deck cards already. These are kind of the obvious ones. You know what? Actually, I realized another card that we can play, because I was thinking about like the side. I'm like, oh, what are we going to side? But then I realized we're not even maining Trap Death Shoot. We're not even maining Trap Death Shoot. How are we not going to play any Trap Death Shoots in this deck? No, we definitely got to main Death Shoots. If we want to beat those Chaos decks, then yeah, I think we want some Death Shoot. I really do. I would even just start maining 3, to be honest. I would just cut the 3 Jar Grades for the 3 Death Shoots. And yeah, now this list looks so much better, because we got the Death Shoots against control to really put the pressure on. We got like the Gorillas and the Goblin Attack Forces to help us win the aggro matchups. And yeah, I like this list a lot better now. We got like 17 monsters, 2 Rotas, like the monster count. So yeah, let's try this. I like this list a lot here. And then we think, okay, what are we siding for, right? The 3 most popular decks, of course, are going to be, well, if we think about the 4 most popular decks, are probably going to be, or I guess 5. Sorry, I keep changing. The 3 most popular decks are going to be Goat Control, Chaos, and Warriors. And then kind of like the 3 next most popular after that are going to be like Burn, Reasoning Gate, and then Chaos Control, right? You have like your standard Chaos and then your Chaos Control. And I definitely think the worst matchups for our deck are just any deck that plays 3 Scapegoats. So that means Reasoning Gate, it means Goat Control, and it means Chaos Control. Just anything that plays a bunch of goats. And there I think the strat versus those decks is going to be to put in the Tigers, probably side out the Skill Drains, or at least side out 1, because we don't really want to be negating our own Tigers. Again, we can like try to use Skill Drain strategically. In this deck, Skill Drain is not going to be a card that you just activate as soon as you draw, right? Sometimes you're going to have to wait, but even more so if we're playing Tigers. So we probably take out 1 or both Skill Drains. And so we already have the Tigers for that. What else though? We could play Book of Moon. We could side in Book of Moon against the Goat meta decks. Because Book of Moon isn't really terrible in our deck. Like, yeah, it's not good if we're using it on Goblin Attack Force. It's not good if we're using it on Gorilla. But we can use it on Rat. We can use it on Lily. I mean, it's not terrible. So I actually do like just siding Book of Moon, just for the decks that play Goat's meta, you know? Another option is we could even play Chain Disappearance. I know this isn't really a popular card, but if your deck loses to Goat's meta really hard, I actually do like this as a side deck card. I actually do. And Compulse is another option too, because we can Compulse Thousand Eyes, and then if our opponent like tries to kill our Tiger, we can Compulse that as well. So maybe these books could be Compulse. That's an option too. So we have a lot of options, and side decking in Goat format I actually think is pretty tough. I think you have a lot of people that don't really put enough thought into their side deck, myself included. So we need 9 more cards. This book might become a Compulse. So we're not going to side Death Shoots because we decided to main those. Death's Wombat is one option for Bird. Of course, if you watched our video on why Death's Wombat isn't that good, you'll know that it's not that good. So yeah, I don't really know if I like Death's Wombat a lot, you know? And we have Skill Drain. I wonder if Skill Drain we just also side out against Burn. Probably, right? Because it costs us 1,000. It doesn't negate their rats. It makes their big shield better. So against Burn, we definitely need to be siding out our Skill Drains. So then we think, okay, if we're siding out Skill Drains, then it means that we could go harder on the Monarchs. Like, we could go Mobius, for example, right? And then just go Mobius Cold Wave in game 2. That's an option. I like the idea, because we're going to be siding out Skill Drains anyway, so we don't have to worry about the negative synergy here. And obviously Mobius is a great anti-burn card. So it's kind of ends up being a question of how many. We might even side 2. You know, we might even side 2. Right now I can't really think of a lot of great side cards, so let's start with 2. Or actually, is Little Swordsman, is that an earth? Little Swordsman. Oh no, that's a water. So this is a way to deal with Ojama Trio. There also is it Amazoness Archer? I think it is. No, it's not. It's Amazoness something. Oh no, it is Amazoness Archer. Okay, I was right the first time. So I like this too, because we can get this off Rat. We can get this off Reinforcement of the Army. And then we can tribute 2 Ojama tokens and deal our opponent 1,200. So I like this. We are definitely going to be siding this against the Ojama Trio decks. Maybe we don't need the second Mobius. So against Warriors, we also kind of have a lot that we want to side out. Just because, obviously, against Warriors, we kind of want to take out the crossouts. We kind of want to take out the Death Shoots. And, like, even Skill Drain isn't that good. So we have, like, 7 cards we need to side out against Warriors. And in general, one of the ways, or one of the things that I really focus on when I'm building my side deck is I think about how many cards I need to take out. I'm not necessarily thinking about how good the matchup is. Because, yeah, I think we're kind of strong against Warriors in Game 1. But it's not like an auto win, and we don't want to have like a bunch of bricks in our deck, right? Like the main way that we lose to Warriors is that we just draw all these bricks, which obviously we don't want to do. So we got to think like, okay, what are we going to side in? So one option too is if we're thinking against maybe like something that's kind of good against Burn, but also kind of good against Warriors, we could play Dust Tornado. Or even something like Xing Zhen Hu. So we might just side a bunch of these just because it's good against Warriors and Burn. And then in that case, we're like going to go less hard on the Mobiuses. Book can probably also come in against Warriors because they're going to side out their crossouts too. So if we book our Rat or something, we don't have to worry about getting hit by knock. So actually, you know what? Let's just side the second Book of Moon. Because it's like, hey, now we have this card that's good against Warriors and good against Goat Control. And you'll notice we haven't really added a whole lot for Reasoning Gate yet. And The issue is that, like, there's not a lot of good cards that our deck can play that are good against Reasoning Gate, right? Like, there's just really not. I mean, Dust Shoot is good against Reasoning Gate. Injection Favorable is also good against Reasoning Gate, particularly the Stein builds, because you just hit for 34, and yeah, boom, got him. So yeah, I think we're kind of just going to be, against Reasoning Gate, we're going to be bringing in the Tigers, bringing out the Crossouts for something, I guess. Another thing to think about that's like kind of good against Warriors is we could also side Brain Control, but since we're only running the one tribute, I don't like that as much. But against Warriors, we could bring in like Mobius plus Brain Control. That is an option. Yeah, that's definitely an option. I mean, Brain Control kind of has like anti-synergy with Cold Wave. Because like we can't go Cold Wave Brain in the same turn. It's tough. Figuring out our game plan is tough, but I think we want something like this, something along these lines. It just kind of depends, like, okay, what sort of approach are we gonna take here? But I think we've covered most of our bases pretty well, but we still only have really like 5, maybe 6 cards. Or no, what we can do is we can just increase our monster count against Warriors, and then just go take out 2 Crossout, 2 Skill Drain, 3 Dust Shoot, and then just add 3 Dust Tornado, 2 Book, 2 Cypher Soldier. That's something that we can do. We could even bring in we'd probably just swap the Mobius for the Grand Mark. Yeah, I think that's what we would do. Because Mobius is just strictly better. Yeah. So I think we figured out our game plan against Warriors. I think we've also figured out our game plan against Goat Control. And I think our game plan for Reasoning Gate is just try to rush them and hope for the best. So at this point, I think we're like pretty much done. We have 3 slots left in our side deck. So we think, okay, is there anything else we didn't really cover? One option I think for decks like Reasoning Gate or Library FTK or Empty Jar is we can play Spell Canceller, just because we can kind of bring it out early. Like, say we open something like Graceful, Spell Canceller, Gigantes, Random Earth Monster. We can special Gigantes turn 1 and then tribute for Spell Canceller. I mean, that's a little situational, but it is an option. We also could go Stein if we side out the skill drains, but against Reasoning Gate, I don't think we want to side out the skill drains because it negates their Crane, negates their Jinzo. Yeah, we're definitely going to keep in the skill drains. So if we want more cards against Reasoning Gate, I think we just need something that we can put in place of these 2 Crossouts. And also Heavy Storm, because Heavy Storm isn't good against Reasoning Gate. A lot of people don't know that, but because like all their back row is chainable, you should, like 90% of the time, should be siding out Heavy against Reasoning Gate. So we just need like 3 spells or chops to bring it against Reasoning Gate. Threatening Roar is one option. It definitely can work. Even as like just a 1-of or something, we can just go Threatening Roar. I guess we could. I mean, Mind Crush is like another option, and I feel like there's something I'm forgetting. But Threatening Roar is one option. I guess we also could think if there's anything we want to maybe side out or change versus Chaos, because we didn't really talk about Chaos too much. Our deck is, I think, kind of just built to hope to beat Chaos. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily like a free roll by any means, but we have like Dust Shoot, which is pretty strong. We have Skill Drain, which is pretty strong. Even strong together, to be honest, because you Dust Shoot, take away their monster that maybe Skill Drain doesn't stop, and then Skill Drain stops everything else. I mean, we could even just side the 3rd Skill Drain. We could just say like, hey, it's really good against combo decks, and it's kind of also good versus Chaos. So yeah, let's just side the 3rd Skill Drain actually. Because I don't think we want to be playing all 3 main deck when we don't really know our opponent's deck yet. Although we could. So one option here is, I think you can play around with these numbers. I think what you can do is, you can potentially move the third dust shoot to the side and the third skill drain to the main. Like, you could just swap them, depending on the meta. Like, if you... I don't know. I think dust shoot's just the better card, to be honest. Yeah, I think dust shoot's just the better card, but you could consider swapping them. So, but yeah, this is an option here, is to play the third skill drain. And then we just need one more card on the side, I think. Ideally, we would, I think, want a card that happens to be good against both Chaos and Reasoning Gate, or combo in general. But I can't necessarily think of a card like that. Other than, like, I don't know. Unless we want to, like, side deck Heavy Slump or something to try to combo Chaos and combo decks. That's super situational. But these are just the things I'm thinking about. I try to sort of, like, cover all of our bases. Make sure that we have enough cards to side in for the cards that we want to side out. That is the main priority, I think. So, yeah, I mean, we could just, like I said, just go Spell Canceller for the combo decks. I don't hate that, actually. But then if we're bringing in these skill drains, then we're also bringing in Spell Canceller. Like, that gets awkward pretty quickly. Yeah, I guess we'd probably just maybe add another Threatening Roar, I guess. Even though I really don't like Threatening Roar. I actually just don't like it that much. Because, okay, we like Threatening Roar, stop our opponent's attacks, then what do we do after that? You know? Like what do we do after that? I guess we maybe attack over things with Goblin Attack Force. But the problem here is that, like, if we Threatening Roar and they just play a bunch of monsters, a lot of them we still can't get over, right? Like, imagine they just play a bunch of monsters. Like, they go, you know, they play a bunch of monsters and go Threatening Roar, stop your attacks. How do we attack over anything like, I don't know, Chaos Sorcerer, Demok, Jinzo, Blowback? Like, we can go Goblin Attack Force and crash into some of those. But that's basically it, right? That's pretty much it. I mean, one option would be to do something like Curse Seal, but then we're going to be taking out our crossouts and heavy anyway, so we're going to be siding in Curse Seal with fewer spells than we had before. Now, actually, one thing that occurred to me is we could just play Magic Jammer. I actually don't hate Magic Jammer in this deck, because in this deck, kind of for the same reason that Chaos decks used to side Magic Jammer, because the idea is like, oh, I'm gonna go Magic Jammer and then discard my Thunder Dragon. Who cares? In this deck, it's kind of the same thing. We can go Magic Jammer, discard our Earth, and then be able to banish the Earth to Gigantes. So I like Magic Jammer because it does what we want, and it has synergy with our game plan. Because against combo decks, how are Earths ever gonna end up in our grave, right? Like, how are they ever gonna end up in our grave? They probably just won't. Right? Unless we're dead. You know, we can maybe crash a rat into something. We can use Exiled Force, maybe. But yeah, so this is it. I like this here, because even if we're against combo, and we're going, okay, we want to bring in the third skill drain, well then don't we want something to negate their Heavy Storm and protect our skill drain? I mean, I think we probably do. And then I think against Reasoning Gate, you might even just side out Gigantes, right? Just because, like, it kills your own skill drain. It's kind of hard to summon. Like, you might side out, like, one copy. So against Reasoning Gate, I think we just, like, bring in Tigers, bring in skill drain, bring in Magic Jammer. So we bring in 3 Tigers. And then I think we side out Grand Marg, because against Reasoning Gate, what's Grand Marg gonna do? Not really a whole lot. Maybe side out, like, 1 Gigantes, and then 1 Mystic Swordsman. Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, I kind of like that. But yeah, this is what I'd try. I think we have a lot of ways to sort of abuse our aggression. I think Cold Wave, Skill Drain, Dust Shoot all do that pretty well. And I think our side covers most of our bases. So I'd start here and try this deck out. Let me know what you think. And if you watch this video and maybe wondering why we weren't siding Death Wombat in an Earth deck, then you should watch this video next, where I talk about, or where we talk about why Des Wombat is not a very good side deck card in GOAT format right now. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.